it helps real estate investors and landlords better assess the performance of their deals. Okay, so my primary competitor, or essentially the problem that we're trying to solve, is that if you're listening to this right now and you own 1 or 2 doors, or as much as 100 doors, it doesn't necessarily matter. I'm willing to bet, my team is willing to bet, that you're more than likely using a spreadsheet. And further, you more than likely don't like your spreadsheet. That's our primary competitor, actually, statistically speaking. It's Microsoft Excel.
A spreadsheet for just tracking everything, you're saying?
Money in, money out.
Got it.
Like,
okay.
This much rent was received. My mortgage is that. Here's much maintenance or repairs were conducted on it. So my cash flow is approximately this. So I've helped different clients in different spaces for years now develop different spreadsheets to kind of show them at the bare minimum what they need to see. And it's on a super cheap, if not free, aspects to certain platforms. It's good enough. However, what we found over the years is people don't love their spreadsheets. And we have the data to show that over 65% of real estate investors are using, or excuse me, over 70% of real estate investors using spreadsheet. 65% of these have a average to below average understanding of how their portfolio is performing because of said spreadsheet, right? So they don't love, statistically speaking, they don't love their spreadsheet, right? So my team put together a platform. Again, it's tractic.io, where real estate investors can go, log in, get 60 to 90 days free access to create an account, and all the while plugging in every single detail associated with the performance of a rental property. It can be any investment strategy, it can be any type of property, it doesn't necessarily matter. You add it in to track it, and then you can weigh it against not only its performance against other tractic users, right, in the network as per the data integrated within the platform, but you can also weigh it against your assumptions or forecasts for that investment property. So Kirby, imagine you selling those deals back a couple of years ago to White Feather Investments and showing them, hey, as per cash flow analysis, this thing is going to cash flow at a 11, 12, 13% cash on cash return for the first year. Someone using Tractic would close on that door, upload all the associated information to include your expectation for maintenance, your expectation for vacancy, your expectation for cash flow, and more, update their Tractic profile, and then over time, month over month over month, input, either they themselves manually input, or you can have a bookkeeping service conducted for you where my team will do it for you at a higher subscription tier. But now you can create an average essentially of, hey, I purchased this deal thinking it was going to perform at X, it's performing at Y. You understand why or why not. And then over time, you can make data-driven decisions as per, is this investment strategy working for this property? Is this property performing in any way, shape, or form that I thought it was going to perform? Should I wait a little bit longer? Should I draw a line in the sand? It's up to you, obviously, as the owner of said property. But Tractor just makes that picture much, much, much more clear.
Got it. That makes sense. And it sounds like a amazing tool to implement. I think the feedback that I get from a lot of people, or when I'm talking to real estate investors, is not that they don't necessarily want to track their information, but that it feels too daunting for them. Like they don't have a good handle on, like, say they work with like a very unsophisticated contractor that, won't accept electronic payments, and they're paying them for multiple properties, writing checks that cover multiple properties. And so, at the end of the day, they've got just like a vague idea of what's going on. How does Tractic sort through that to help clarify that picture for them in a tactical, what's the tactical steps around that?
Absolutely. Yes. So you can manually control the transaction coordination within the platform in itself, or you can ask my team to do it for you, right? There's a chat function in the platform so that when you add in a transaction to say, hey, this was a $5,000 expense, but it was essentially spread across 4 properties that I own. Well, you can chat Tractic support distinct, not just ask, an AI feature, hey, what questions do I have, and be filtered accordingly. If you go to chat about a particular transaction, that bubble pops up in our communication channel via Slack for a particular thread where we have 2 people waiting for you to chat saying, hey, this was a transaction that's put into this property A, but I want to spread load the cost, essentially divide 5,000 by 4 for properties B, C, and D, right? End of communication, push send. My team acknowledges it. We put a thumbs up emoji, or we like to put little pig emojis. That's kind of the brand strategy, which I'll talk about later. But the idea is we say yes, and then we'll conduct that transaction for you. So over time, Kirby, like what you're talking about here is not just prompting you or having you upload maybe like a voided picture of the check, or maybe text message correspondence or anything like that. Because what matters more importantly to our team is that is tracked and managed within the platform over time. Because we're talking about this being conducted in, let's say, for example, February 2024. If that transaction is separated across 4 properties and you gave $5,000 for the contractor to go work on X amount of properties over time, what we want to see is that show up properly in accounting measures as well in your P&L, in your net income, on your Schedule A. And Tractic automates that as well during tax time. So you don't need a bookkeeper to go pull all this information. You can impress the hell out of your CPA when you just go over to the reporting function within Tractic, because now it was communicated. Either you yourself updated the profile, or you can ask my team to do it for you with proper guidance. And then when come tax time, all you need to do is export the information, create the reports, and just rifle that thing right off to your CPA. It's done for you.
Got it. Okay. That's what I was going to ask, is if this replaces a bookkeeper, because that's a big expense for a lot of people on a monthly basis. So
ironically, myself included, and I don't want to, I'm paying way too much, but I don't want to disparage or completely replace a certain aspect of the real estate industry. For example, I imagine a lot of people listening to this have some sort of bookkeeping aspect to their portfolio, which is perfectly fine. I do too. I would offer, absolutely, and including myself, I would offer that starting later this year, essentially, I'm going to downgrade some of the responsibilities for my bookkeeper, because I very simply just don't need her to handle any of my real estate portfolio. The platform does it for you. So rather than say, Kirby, like, hey, we're going to full out replace bookkeepers. If you love your bookkeeper and they do good work for you, good on you. I would offer, from a real estate perspective, you probably don't need them to update anything in QuickBooks on your rental portfolio behalf, because we have a platform that can do it for you.
Wow. And could you log in and pull your income statement and balance sheet, or is it a different format?
Yes, you can absolutely pull your income statement. You can pull a rent roll.
Yeah.
Right? These are 4 reports that we have right now for all tiers of subscription. So we run it low, medium, high. We call it Rookie, Pro, and All Star. So no matter your subscription tier right now, the 4 reports are accessible to you on tractic.io. Over time, as we add, again, 50, 60, 100 different reporting functions in there, that's going to be kind of tiered depending on accessibility via your subscription selected, right? So rookies can only see X amount, and pros can only see X amount. But hard hitting items, to your point of P&Ls, net cash flow statements, schedulees, those are some of the foundational reports that we're just going to have all users have access to.
Got it. Okay. And how does this compare? I know Stessa is a big name in the industry. How does this compare to like a Stessa?
Number one thing I would offer, as kind of simplistic as this sounds, is we have a more intuitive layout. That's actually the number one thing that people filling out surveys for us of like, hey, should we put together a platform like this? The number one thing people are looking for is that everything else out there, to include their spreadsheets, is just overly complex, and it doesn't give them a good idea of what their portfolio is doing, whether it's one door or 60 doors. You don't get a good grasp of that. So first thing I would address is we have Stessa's layout compared to Tractic's layout is, you can tell that Tractic was built by a caveman. I am said caveman. So it's as easy as possible. We try to remove as many buttons, right? So on the left side toolbar, you have 5 selections of where you can go to include your dashboard, which you're gonna live on essentially. And then we break down your dashboard, overall KPIs, actuals versus assumptions, to give you a visual depiction of said data, and then your property cards that you can look into the performance of each one of your investments or your doors, depending on your strategy.
Okay.
So that's the number one thing I would offer. And then secondarily is we are hyper niche into asset management. We are not a property management software for now. So we actually have a meeting next week with a like kind company. I don't want to name any names, but they also do essentially what Stessa does from a property management aspect. So Tractic will absolutely be hold the capabilities on our roadmap later this year. For a platform roadmap, hold the capabilities for property management. So that's rent collection, obviously reporting and document creation for lease agreements, evictions, stuff like that. It'll be tenant screening and listings and stuff like that. So we'll have more property management functionalities for your mom and pop or your DIY landlords. Those will be added to Tractic, but our hyper niche is asset management. We very simply just want to clarify and clear the picture up of your portfolio and show you essentially what your spreadsheet is not showing you. So there are, again, Kirby, coming full circle. It's good to compete with companies like that. They're much bigger and they're heavily financed. It's another thing when I talk to Tractic users, for example, because I used to use platforms like that, and there was a reason why I came off of using those platforms. So when I meet with prospective Tractic subscribers and they tell me the exact same thing that I ran into in 2018, 2019 before we started working on Tractic, it warms my heart a little bit that we're on the right path for what we're building.